This week on RSBANDB Update, the first edition of Once Upon a Time is here, Foreshadowing. 3 Slayers walk into a bar and their rare item tokens disappear, and the bar's parent company is sold. Finally, Mod Iroh makes his debut as art director, showing off some very fine stretches and sketches. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 814, recorded Thursday, January 28th, 2021. Thrice Slave. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, of course, is the first quest week of 2021, and it's a mini quest series. It could be a quest. There was enough to talk about in that quest, so we could be on the fence of whether it's a quest or mini quest, but nonetheless, it's a fun thing to celebrate because this is the 20th anniversary quest series, Once Upon a Time. And to discuss that this week, Diana joined us. Welcome back.
Hello. We got a quest. I think it's a tiny quest. It's not a mini quest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. You think of mini quest, and the first thing that instantly pops into my mind is the shadow mini quest, where you get the shadow armor set and whatnot, which is a lot simpler than this and not as many ramifications. So I'm fine with calling this a quest, I think. But Tanis, you're here as you are each and every week as well. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shane. And
of course, if you guys want to follow along the show notes, you can find those at update.rsbnb.com. I am Shane12088 in game. He is Tanis79, and she is Dianima, I believe. I always get that wrong, whatever it is.
Yep,
hopefully
that's right.
I got that right. Good. I'm finally getting it right after all these Lore Digger
There's
episodes.
An underscore in there somewhere, but I can never remember where it is. So
right?
just, come find me in Clan Quest. I'm in there somewhere.
All right, so we have a huge show this week, a very graphical show as well. Hopefully it'll be amusing when we get to the art stuff, some of the fun little art Easter eggs that were dropped out around and whatnot. But, of course, let's start with this quest, Foreshadowing, Once Upon a Time. And, this quest is one that kind of they had a different expectation going in than what we had, in particular because it deals with Relomia, Sliskay's emissary, with this one. What were your guys' thoughts going in?
I had no idea what to expect going into this one, or this whole series, actually, because I know from what they were saying that it's going to be a 4-part celebration of questing, running all the way through the year. That could mean a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of what it could cover, because obviously that's 20 years of questing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you condense that into 4 episodes? What exactly are they going to focus on? And for this first one, they seem to have taken the 3 main classic quests, Demon Slayer, Dragon Slayer, and Vampire Slayer, and kind of tied it in with the main 6th Age questline, which is the Sliskay questline, and kind of brought them together in a fairly comedic way with what's her name?
Relomia
as the main character that you interact with. Which was surprising for me. I didn't really expect it, but I did like it overall. I thought it was very funny, and we got to see a bit of death and closure as well, but we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah, and, one of the interesting things that happens in this quest is that right off the bat, you go to her party in Varrock, and you're set to get a party hat and, take a drink of the punch, and when you take a drink of the punch, it swaps the 2 of you around in, I guess what could be described as a Freaky Friday swap, right?
I guess, yeah. It was kind of, you put on a silly hat that looks a little bit like Ramoya's horns, and you drink something that you probably shouldn't have drunk, and then she steals your identity, and everyone thinks that she's the World Guardian. So she gets to regale Gideon Bede and Morgan and, all these kind of secondary protagonists from these classic quests.
Yeah.
With stories like, oh, this is how I killed the demon, this is how I killed the dragon, this is how I killed the vampire.
And you need to correct her on what you did.
she makes little mistakes, and you've got to kind of remember,
Yeah.
what did I actually do in this quest? And this is the callback to the, the 20 years of questing. What did you actually do in these major classic quests?
I was proud of myself. I got 2 of 3 of them on the first go.
I got all of them.
The reason I didn't get the third one was that it was just a simple misclick.
Oh, of course, yeah, sure.
I got the wooden
story.
Sure thing, yeah.
I got the wooden stake. I got the Elvarg having one head, and then I misnamed the Dark Light. But that was the misclick in the
Silver
menu.
Light.
Yeah.
But I thought that was quite a nice little way of kind of bringing in a bit of nostalgia for the old quests. Because those are like Dragon Slayer is, I'd say, one of the most iconic RuneScape quests. Like it's
we talked about that in
days.
in the first 10 years monthly bit that that's how Rune Armor was brought into the game way back when.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that everyone who used to play it back in the day will remember Dragon Slayer and remember the achievement that was Dragon Slayer getting that one done. So it was nice to see that one.
Yeah, I just want to also say one thing on this is that looking back on these quests through the lens of foreshadowing confirms everything that was said in the lore Q&A last week with Mark and Osborne, that one of the best things RuneScape does is tell traditional stories, except with a different twist on them, because you can look at any other MMO or any other fantasy game out there, and sure, they could have a Dragon Slayer, Vampire Slayer, Demon Slayer quest, but it's not going to be exactly what RuneScape has.
Yeah, they add their own unique flavor to them, which is great. And it's not just go kill a demon, okay, done. There's a lot, like that is the core critical path, obviously, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes on, a lot of extra character and fluff and world building that goes on that makes it a nice, satisfying story rather than just an MMO quest.
Yeah, I appreciated that. And before we move on to the next bit with Death here, I was wondering, could this ultimately come back at some point in the future? Hence, it's called Foreshadowing. Could this come back at some point in the future as Verlomia's way to potentially access Sliske?
I think that's worth discussing towards the end.
Okay, all right, we'll move on then.
When we talk to Moira a bit. But yeah, she then stabs you and kills you, just kind of shanks you out of nowhere, and you wake up in Death's office, as you usually do. But this time, Death says, right, this is the end. You're not respawning this time. And in a bit of a panic, you try and convince him that you are actually the World Guardian, you're not Ramoya. Eventually, you do manage to convince him, luckily, and he restores your ability to respawn. I thought it was quite funny getting that actually canonized within the lore somehow.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it has before. It's just a mechanic. But now, we're someone who has this magical ability, and Death says, right, back out you go, and kicks us out the door again. But he says there's a whole lot of paperwork that needs sorting out, so he sends you to Closure.
And this was a character we saw in the 2017 Halloween event.
Yeah, quite a well-liked character, actually, within the lore and writing community. They do seem to like him for some reason. So it was nice to have him brought back. And he gets his own environment this time, which is lovely. He's got his own office and waiting room and kind of almost like a bedroom area behind it.
Yeah.
And this was the kind of thing that made me class this as a quest rather than a mini-quest.
Right.
Because there's a whole bunch of new assets in here and specialized environments and, not unique, but bespoke set pieces made for this particular piece of content, and that they're not reusing assets. This, to me, makes it a quest.
Yeah, that's a very fair
effort
point.
that's spent on it.
And there's also, tons of little references in there with the examine information, the bookcases.
The examine texts are hilarious. Some of them are a bit sad because obviously there's, dead people around, but there's a lot of puns, and if you read the biographies on the shelves, you get some funny jokes in there. And I think Mod Iroh said that he's going to add to the biographies as the quest line goes on.
Oh, good.
So it'll be worth revisiting.
I really enjoyed the, whatever it's summarized for V, the tale of...
a very short hero's journey.
A very short hero's journey.
Poor V, he deserved better.
We were promised a V quest, but we got a Dragonkin quest instead.
Oh, dear. Sons of V. When's that coming out? Love it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Continuation of the Fremennik line and whatnot.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody was struggling with their inner spirituality during that time. Because they were just popping gods off left and right. Bap, bap, bap.
Someone was having a bit of a moment.
Yeah.
But
we all got to take it out somehow.
In this room, you got, of course, the ones you were talking about: Delrith, the vampire, and Elvarg.
Yeah, so Count Draenor, Elvarg, and Delrith are in here, and you have to skip the queue by doing them favors. They're all very simple favors. It's not like, I think there's a reference to one small favor in here as well.
Yeah,
obviously, because that's apparently going to get referenced all year, which is I have no problem with. I think it's very funny.
That means we're not getting one small favor too.
Oh, you say that now?
I'm afraid it might mean the opposite.
Last
That's scary.
Yeah.
For Delrith, you have to just say 5 words to banish him. Elvarg, you have to take her last will to the Grand Exchange to get the Hoard, and then you can give the Hoard back to her. For Count Draenor, you have to go back to Draenor Manor and turn off the oven because he's worried he left it on.
Which is just so weird, but okay.
Yeah, and then the 3 of them can move on. And they get very funny dialogue throughout this little sequence. If you're wearing the party hat, they will just quietly roast your party hat constantly before you leave.
Right. I thought that was part of the quest in there.
No, I think if you're not wearing the party hat, you don't get it. So yeah, keep it on. And you get laughed at all the way through.
I think it's also implied that in Elvarg's crate there were actual party hats from adventurers.
Yes. Yeah. You can choose to peek in the Hoard when you pick it up.
Yep.
And I think you get a comment it's like, oh, these must be worth billions.
Yep.
And then when you give it back to her, she says, oh, did you look? And then you can say yes or no. And then I said no and I lied. And she said, don't lie to me. My party hats are worth more than yours or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's how I knew that happened.
Yeah. Again, just nice, witty, I'd say very classic RuneScape-y dialogue.
Yeah.
Silly and making fun of itself.
And see, I think this is another reason you can call it a quest is because, if this was just a mini quest, you'd see something like we saw in the first week, which was just a basic fetch quest.
Mm-hmm. Well, this actually has quite a lot of character
Exactly.
in it. And
exactly.
It's still a fetch quest, but it's got enough puff around it to make it worth doing.
That doesn't necessarily feel like it, where it's just,
running your first instinct was not to class it as a fetch quest.
Yep.
Which is a clever bit of smoke and mirrors, but that's what makes it a quest rather than a mini quest to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And, there's always going to be the people who are going to say, but it's in the mini quest in the thing, therefore it's a mini quest, and so on and so forth. But, I
remember, was it Mod Iroh who said on the law stream that they were classing it as a mini quest mostly to err on the side of caution because it is a small quest, and I think it's better to class a small quest as a mini quest just in case.
And he said the only difference between making this a quest and a mini quest would be that, it doesn't have a quest journal right now, and they could add a quest journal and it could be added to the quest log, and it could become a quest at some point in the future potentially as well.
Oh, that's good. Then maybe they'll decide to do that.
Don't you think it's one of them situations, though, too, like, if they called it a quest, people would be like, well, yeah, but it's a mini quest. It's just a fetch quest with some puff.
Yeah.
Like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like,
you can understand why they did it.
Yeah.
Especially given the relative lack of quest content we've had recently. They've got to try and curry some favour with the questing community to kind of build it back up again, which is no bad thing. I think it's just got to, but yeah, that's probably why they did it.
Yeah. Anyways,
but yeah, then you can pop in through the door and speak to Closure, and he tells you that Ramoya has forced herself into your biography, but something goes on where like she's still writing the story.
It's
your
not
story.
Over yet.
It's not over yet. So what you have to do is get a death contract.
And you're not
Closure.
supposed to be there for at least another month.
Yeah, that's what Harold said, wasn't it?
Yeah. And once again, could that be foreshadowing to when something is supposed to begin in the wider storyline this year? I don't know. Because, I don't think you call it foreshadowing to not foreshadow anything with this, right?
Okay, someone who made this quest isn't going to like me, but I really don't like the name of it. Foreshadowing.
Okay.
That's not a great name. It's not a great name. But, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you can... Yeah, so he casts a spell on the party hat to disguise you again, so that whenever you go to Realm Moya, she won't know it's you. So there's a bit of, switching and kind of, I'm in disguise, but I'm also under a disguise from someone else, and that gets a bit confusing. Then you can go back to the Blue Moon Inn and convince Realm Moya to sign the contract. I think you do that by
asking for the autograph of Shane 12088.
Basically, you ask her for an autograph.
Yeah.
And then she signs it, and the spell's broken, and she has a little angry monologue that talks about a little bit more about why she's doing it. She can't find Sliske. She's kind of without meaning now, so she's trying to steal the World Guardian's fate and saying, I want what you have. And that she has more dastardly plans for the future. So I wonder if she's going to be the antagonist of this mini-quest series.
See, I would have mixed feelings about that if that pans out to be true. I'd prefer it personally to be a different antagonist for each mini quest with a kind of a central theme that binds them all together. Because
I wonder if it's going to be she's going to be the central character, and then maybe different things happen.
Oh, okay.
In each one,
because
like some kind of Scooby-Doo episode was like, foiled again,
right, and
runs off and tries more dastardly plans.
The reason I have mixed feelings about it is that, first and foremost, is that, this could essentially, in that case, be boiled down to a mini Sliske arc, so to speak, which, I mean, I guess would be fine, but personally, it's kind of just, that's the same kind of thing's been done. If she turns out being a Jestery type character on this, but...
kind of depends how they handle her as a character.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, whenever she said, it's about Sliske and it's about her not having any purpose now Sliske is gone, that did rankle a little bit, because while it makes sense for her, and while, as a character for her individually, it fits, RuneScape has a habit of defining its female characters in terms of their male like friends and relatives and enemies.
Interesting.
Rather than right.
Interesting.
And you see it again and again. It's quite common in fantasy stories. It's not just a RuneScape thing, but you do notice it after a while. So it depends whether she decides to stand on her own 2 feet or whether she continues to be defined by Sliske. But yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Like I say, at the moment, it does fit for her.
Yeah, it does. And, I think if they just copied it and, made her, just the regular jester for all these little quests going forward, I think that would be a waste. But I think if they did it in the way that you were talking about, where it was about her finding her own way, following from the disappearance of Sliske, then that would be an interesting aspect. And
is she going to get an arc where she decides actually she's not going to be defined by him anymore and she's going to go do her own thing? And maybe she goes off and does evil things.
Maybe.
That's fine. Maybe she goes off and becomes this evil witch somewhere in the waste. But if she's doing it by herself, under her own steam, that would be quite interesting to see.
And the thing to also remember about this is that this isn't necessarily going to be a quest that's consistently going to touch into the Elder God storyline that is said to be central for 2021. It's just going to kind of run tangentially to it, oddly poking its head in throughout there. So this could just be, one kind of thing where it pokes in on that storyline every so often and there's tangential references to it and not necessarily a core supplement to that storyline, I think was what they said on the live stream last week about this.
Right, yeah.
So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I did like this one. It was quite strong in the characterization. It was nice seeing some new environments in there. It was quite funny, quite lighthearted.
Yep.
And a nice small quest.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
I think it took about 20 minutes or so for me to do, and it didn't feel like
half an hour.
It didn't feel like 20 minutes. So that was that's always a good sign when a quest goes faster than it is, because it means you're really immersed into it, and time stops being a thing. So
Yeah. I just like that it was funny. I love quests that make me smile and quests that
Yeah.
make me laugh.
Yeah.
They're always the best ones.
yeah, and it fits right in the wheelhouse of what a RuneScape quest is.
So yeah, given its purpose of looking back over the tradition of RuneScape questing, I think it did an excellent job.
All right, Tanis, anything else on that?
No, I think you guys just quested the shit out of that little mini quest.
The quickest
I mean,
quest
not a
I've
mini
ever done.
quest.
All right, well, let's move on then to our other news of
That's
the week.
my segment done. Bye.
No! No.
I'm out of here.
We also
No,
got
check yourself.
the celebration of skilling going on this week. 50% XP boost for all gathering skills, which of course include archaeology, divination, farming, fishing, mining, hunting, and woodcutting. And iron characters will not get the XP buff. They also say that the XP bonus won't apply to archaeology's restoration, but will get the 50% extra precision while excavating, and it won't apply to the animals on your player-owned farm or ranch at a time.
How good's 50% precision, Shane?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good, huh? Yeah.
To the point with consumable and no flow state. At the 119 excavation spot, I got, I think it was, probably 9 or 10 artifacts in an hour.
Yes. Okay.
So, very nice. Very nice. We also have the Vault of Shadows mini quest this week, which we've already done. I don't think you have, Tanis. This was the final mystery in the Caradette
Yes and no.
dig site.
No, dude, I'm like, it's so weird because I'm like at 112 and I'm still so behind on mysteries. Like, I think I'm still a professor, you know.
You're
like,
going to have a fun time with this one with the puzzle involved.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the way this works is that they put out this mini quest, the Vault of Shadows mini quest. I think it's level 58 archaeology you need for it now. Yeah, that's what it is. And you get full access to all of Caradette with this, but it allows you to complete the Vault of Shadows mini quest for some undisclosed reason in the future. They say something that'll come in handy fairly shortly.
They need trending for some reason.
And
obviously, spoilers. I probably should have prefaced that with spoilers. Sorry, guys.
I mean, we're almost a year out. I don't think you need to do that anymore on this archaeology stuff.
Basically, 108, the Vault of Shadows mystery is the culmination of Caradette, and you use the 4 spell scrolls to free Trindine from the Shadow Vault. This is exactly the same, except that Azanadra gives you the spell scrolls and you don't have to dig them up. So it cuts down the level requirement from 108 to 58.
Yeah.
That means they need Trindine for some future bit of content. And they're trying not to lock her behind too high a skilling requirement. 58 still isn't insignificant. But I imagine most members who are interested in skilling and lore will have got that by now. So there's going to be some sort of starter quest coming up that involves her as a major character.
And we're going to learn probably a whole lot more about what exactly happened in the Vault of Shadows there.
What happened in the Vault of Shadows and what's Azanadra up to and all sorts of juicy stuff, no doubt. I'm excited for it. Whatever it is, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's got to be something Elder God Wars related.
It's got to be something Elder God Wars related, and I adore Trindine. So.
Or Syntiston, something on that same vein.
Something like that.
And, if you want full discussion of this, you can go back to the Lore Diggers episode where we discussed Caradette. We had a full description of this mystery and everything that Trindine says and the ramifications from that, and I really enjoyed that one. Going back, that's definitely one of the highlights of archaeology for me. So,
thought that was a great, cake topper to the Caradette site. I really enjoyed it.
And if you have completed that mystery already, just go talk to Dr. Nabanik, and the mini quest will be marked as complete for you. And he says that you'll get a well-earned thank you, which is literally all it is. But I think that's good. Next up. Rare item tokens have
Drama.
been removed. Yeah. Drama indeed. This came out of nowhere. And, we knew it was going to be on the horizon. They talked about it when they had Mod Mike on the stream a number of times. We just didn't know it was going to happen so soon. And the idea behind this is that rare item tokens as they were really weren't all that useful unless, there was going to be some rare you wanted to buy, or maybe you were holding out hope of buying some rare in the future. But what they have done is they have converted your rare item tokens into oddments at a rate of 10 to 1, meaning 50 rare item tokens would get you 5 oddments for a cap of 1,000 oddments total. And all of the rares have been moved into the oddments shop. And you would think this would be the end of the story. But it wasn't. And, I personally don't get why people were concerned about this. Granted, there's a cap, and maybe the cap is the thing that people were concerned about the most. But they did wind up providing clarification on this removal, and they start off the post by saying, we want there to be as little impact on you as possible. While the ratio holds true, it's clear from your feedback we didn't meet the expectations, and we misjudged the value that rare item tokens held by not fully considering the opportunity cost to acquire them, and we're sorry for getting this wrong. After a thorough investigation since this past Monday, we have unfortunately confirmed that this is something we're unable to resolve or change without entire server rollbacks, which would have even further reaching consequences or ramifications. Now, as an apology for the misstep, we'll be gifting all players 15,000 extra oddments to spend in the oddments shop. We'll also be awarding all players 15 treasure hunter keys, and this will roll out with this next game update coming on Monday and be available for players who log in within 3 months of the update. Accounts created on or after January 26th will not be eligible. Now, also, in line with next week's update, based on feedback, they'll be bringing the limited and current rare items into the oddment store to ensure you can still pick up the items that you want. And this change was a part of a long-term plan to consolidate our extra currencies for a better user experience. And we do believe this change adds a very beneficial improvements for all players moving forward. But yesterday it underdelivered on converting the value that you already had. And in the future, we'll provide ample notice of any currency changes before it happens and spend particular care on any currency conversion rates based on opportunity. Okay. Now, personally, the only issue I saw with this was the cap, because the way I value a thing and the way I value a currency or something that you can invest is that if it's just sitting in the corner, if it's sitting under your bed not doing anything, it has no value. And by converting the rare items tokens into oddments, something that can be used and something that has more perceived value in the form of XP, no matter how many oddments you got from the conversion of the rare item tokens, in my point of view, you come out ahead. That's the way I view this. And I bet this is what factored into the decision to do what they did, is because if something is just sitting there in the corner, not being used, it has no value. It's just collecting dust. At least that's the way that I view it. Am I wrong in that?
About it. I think that from what I've seen, some of the controversy or some of the anger was because they didn't get as many oddments as they wanted, or like the conversion rate was off. Like, right. I personally don't really have an opinion on this. I never really used my rare item tokens apart from maybe a couple of times, and oddments I can live or die without. They're not a big deal to me. So yeah, it's not your issue. In my professional opinion, but I think the main cause of trouble was the conversion rate. But 15,000 seems like a lot.
It really does. It really does.
That seems like a lot. Unless people had like way more rare item tokens than like the average number of rare item tokens.
I think I got like 933.
Can't even remember how many I had. But Yeah, no, it just seems a bit, yeah, to me. Maybe a storm in a teacup, but
Tannis?
there we go.
Okay, well, I thought we were going to have a big alert, but we didn't. That's the
All
craziest thing. Anyway, yeah, so I think the problem with this, one, you're right, it's the limit, and 15,000 seems like a lot, but it ain't really that much. I mean, you can blow 25k oddments, like, quickly. So I don't know. The other thing is people didn't really use rare item tokens like you said.
Exactly.
But you were still getting them. They were still popping up. You were
It's
still
like collecting
getting them in
popsicle sticks.
Right, but that like so but
Do people don't see it that way?
well, for one, no, RS players don't see stuff that way. Shane, we got people that collect beads and whatever, flax. Hell, I don't know, you name it. How many players have maxed banks at all times, Like, I think the problem in this case was more that there was either there wasn't any warning
There was no
or there wasn't enough
communication on
warning.
it, yeah.
That
And I will see that
people
point.
had known ahead of time, then they could have spent whatever that cap would have been. They could have spent whatever that extra. They could have bought whatever goofy cosmetics or what have you. But it just seems wasted.
Yeah. I also see this as an opportunity for people who like to complain to complain.
Well, you're always going to have that. I mean, haters going to hate, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think 15,000 is a good consolation number on this, along with the keys. Also, with that, we just need to have the discussion that what was there in the rare item shop aside from potential future rares that you might be interested in.
Well, and here's the thing: like, does the good outweigh the bad? Because
I think so.
There's a little bit of controversy right now. I think a warning would have been probably better. But then at the same time, would that have just caused an uproar? Who knows? Because I mean, that could have happened too. But at the end of the day, we need to be moving towards one kind of a currency anyway.
Yeah.
So getting rid of that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not harming your core game loop. So I mean, that's why it's not really that big of an issue. But I think the communication, to recap, the communication could have been a little bit better. And the cap is, of course, the question in that. But the way I see it is that if you have a bunch of, rare item tokens or anything really just sitting that you're not using and has no use, it has no value. And by converting them to oddments, they brought the value up despite the fact you got less. And that's where we sit with this. But, we also, of course, do have some patch notes this week because it wouldn't be a RuneScape update without patch notes, and patch notes were very, very lean this week, so I will just run through these quickly. The 20th anniversary invitation is no longer given to players on Tutorial Island.
Okay.
Players doing the Dragon Slayer portion of the Grand Party mini quest can now get the frying pan back from the Duke if they've destroyed it. We already talked about the Vault of Shadows mini quest. Max has reclaimed his Max cape and is now wearing it. He also has the Master of All title. His skilling pets will no longer desync, which is I had no idea that was a problem. And finally, players will no longer crash when spying on Agent 007. You're good to go, Scaramanga.
How do you get the Master of All skills title?
I don't know. He did. He did.
I don't know. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. But there's your patch notes for the week. And, we're going to move on now to what everybody...
All is getting all 28 skilling pets.
Yeah, and of course Max has that. Max has that. We're going to move on.
I got a new goal now. All right.
You want to have what Max has?
No, I want Matt to be a master of all.
Okay.
Max is, peak gameplay.
That's true. He's the meta.
All right. Let's move on to what everybody was oohing and ahhing about, and rightly so this week. The player avatar refresh live stream was here, and this was our first chance to have a peek at what was going to be on offer with this. And, I came into this not knowing what to expect, but at the end of the day, I was very pleased with everything that we heard here and saw. Starting off with this, just some updates in terms of what was said at the beginning in terms of clerical work, so to speak. Mod Warden had COVID in December, hence why the Leeds Q&A that was planned got moved away. They're still in the process of planning for 2021. And this stream also served as the introduction for RuneScape's new art director, Mod Iroh, or Julian Webb, as his name is. And I really like this guy. I really do.
Mod Warden?
No. Of course we like Mod Warden. I meant Mod Iroh.
Oh, okay. I was confused. I'm like, right.
He has a way of speaking that is so in tune with I think what the art that was shown was, and everything that he talked about made sense, and it was just explained so well, despite the fact that sometimes some of the PowerPoint slides didn't exactly line up with that. And I don't know. I was just very pleased on the whole with what he had to say here. What did you guys think?
His communication style. I could listen to him talk about the technical side of art all day. Like, can he please just make a podcast or something so he can talk about art for 3 hours? And like, yes, I'll pay for that. I was saying in pre-show actually that someone like him who's been making games since the 90s and is kind of a master of his craft, they're a bit of a unicorn, really. There aren't many people like that around. So good on Jagex for managing to get him involved, because he sounded really enthusiastic and like genuinely quite passionate about the game.
Yeah, he sounded like he understood the game already.
He gets it. After like 6 months, it really sounded like he got it. And coming from the art director, who is in charge of everything art related in the studio, that's cool. That's really cool. So I think he made a very good impression on me, and I think he made quite a good impression on the community in general. So, yeah, great news, really great news. And it was quite a fun stream as well. It was nice to see that. I always love seeing behind the scenes work of any area of game development and art. Something it's like I don't know a lot about art, so it's nice to get a little look behind the curtain at the technical development and some of the difficulties and all the weird things that happen whenever you try and make a model. What they're saying that my favorite one was the current male model in game doesn't have a lower jaw.
Yeah.
It has a beard that has a jaw attached. If you want a lower jaw without a beard, it has an invisible beard and like all this ridiculous stuff that, you have to do to get these things working that players obviously have no idea about.
Right, and you can't change that going forward because they said that would be effectively be breaking the whole system. But we'll get to that. Tannis,
his wonderful metaphor was whenever you try to update a live game, you are swapping a plane's wings while you're flying it. And I thought, as someone who's worked on live games, like, oh God, that is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. I've never heard it expressed so well, though.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Tannis?
It was a fun stream. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't fall in love, but I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was cool and everything. But that is cool. Anytime you can find someone that breadth of experience and then can communicate. Yeah. That's not very common.
Yeah, he started as an illustrator in the early 90s. He joined the games industry in 99. and been, at Jagex for only 5 or 6 months or so. And what he had to say on this was that he sees MMOs as one of the most fun genres of games, since you're effectively building a world, you have adventures in it, and it's your world. And he says that there's really not a better one to work on than RuneScape.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
I think he's on to something there.
Yeah, and Mod Warden said that the whole objective is that RuneScape needs to become a lot more competitive and attractive to new players, and the player avatar lags behind a lot of the other things, such as the NPC art in the game.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt.
Then we also have
I don't even think that's arguable.
No,
right?
It's not. Not arguable at all. Then we have Mod Stead, who joined in 2007, who is the associate art director. When the game was first being converted to full screen, he said when he joined, he's worked on many things, including Prith, and his favorite piece was the Abbey from One Piercing Note. And the discussion about why are we doing this now comes down to the fact that the game is the world, and the player, if yourself as is not reflected, is not competitive, and as delightful as it can be, those are Mod Iroh's words there, then as world builders, Jagex is missing a trick, so to speak, as he says. And the character team is very excited about the refresh, and this makes sense because, this is one of the core pillars of the game, and it needs to be as grand as possible. And then, we need to, of course, issue the disclaimer that everything seen in this stream is work in progress, not final in concepts, and is heavily, heavily subject to change. So now that that's out of the way, we can kind of dive into some of the things that they talked about on the live stream. They first went through the player avatar through the ages, RuneScape Classic, Old School, and then RuneScape 3, where that's at. And as you were saying, Diana, you can't swap the wings out of a plane while it's flying, and that's exactly what a living game is. And everything that they are doing with this update, their top priority is to ensure that it doesn't break the existing game. Which, I mean, I think it's good that that's being said out there, but, there are, of course, going to be those people who are going to say that, hey, we're getting a more complicated player model to render. Oh, now my game is going to be slower. Can we have a toggle, please? No, unfortunately, that's not the way it's going to work with this for you. But, based on the technology they have, I don't think we'll be seeing that big of a performance hit on this. Just the way it works. Breaking it down, what they talked about, the initial character creator has 32 costumes, 16 male and 16 female, with 60 total hairstyles. And the goal of this is to bring the rework to people who just started the game, as well as the existing player base with this. And then we have some concepts of what the incoming character model could look like with what we currently have in game. For those of you guys on the video version, I'm showing that up now, but effectively what we see is a more detailed model, both in terms of what the character itself shows, as well as the costumes that the character is wearing. And we do have a link to all of this at the various timestamps in our show notes at update.rsbnb.com. You guys have any early thoughts on the concepts that they showed around the 24-minute mark or so of what this could look like?
I'm going to get the stream up so I can see what you're talking about.
And Tanis, I think one thing that you'll be very pleased about is that this, pushes it forward, and it looks as though that, this is the kind of quality that you might see in another game, such as an ESO or something like that.
It's time, man.
Yeah.
It's time. I'm so leery of the, the change police.
Right?
Like, I'm so worried about it because I thought this was cool.
I thought so too.
I was like, no, please be quiet. I don't want you to take this from me. I want this.
And they do look good.
And that brings up another thing is that, they could go all out and they could change it to, move it into the next era and whatnot, but you still need to remember what core RuneScape is, and you can't necessarily just, flick a switch and completely change the way the character looks. It's still got to retain that essence, and I think what they have does retain that essence.
I liked what Mod Iroh was talking about with, I think later on in the stream, about how things like clothes have to be believable. And the example he kept bringing up is that your pants don't stay up by magic. Like, there needs to be the clothing needs to make sense. I think that's a good approach to use, even in fantasy games.
Yeah, and same thing with hair as well. I mean, you can have this huge updo of hair, but if it's just, all spiked out going up and it's not defying the laws of gravity, that really doesn't make sense, does it?
It's kind of walking that fine line between realism and fantasy because, RuneScape is on the line. Some parts are realistic-ish, and then obviously you have magic and corporeal gods stomping around, so there is quite a bit of fantasy in there as well. But adding this sort of touch of realism and just kind of what makes sense within the rules of the world is a good focus to have, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And now
it's nice seeing the female player model have some actual knees, because that's been my gripe with her. She actually has knees.
They actually did talk about that in comparing the old versus the new, both in terms of the knees and the arms. That the female model was so very thin in the arms and whatnot before, and that's something.
Oh yeah, she actually has some muscle on her arm. Like, not a lot. It would still be nice to see different body types, but
yeah,
still got some. It's an improvement.
Yeah. Now
she's no longer got balloons on her chest, which is always good as well. Like,
which we really haven't had.
Reddit were up in arms about that, but we can ignore them.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not going to ask what they were up in arms about, but so years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they started with the preparation phase, which was player research through focus groups, technical investigations, and capacity planning on this. And going back to 2017-18, player focus groups looked at what the player model rework could be. And in parallel, lots of technical investigations were happening in capacity planning to see if the live game could, of course, support an existing model going forward. And this is one of the huge benefits that we're getting from NXT, rather than that wouldn't have been able to happen with Java. So keep that in mind. And the current stage they're at is the proof of concept stage, and they really said that there will be a long period where feedback is possible, because they're still at the stage where they need to prove that what they're doing is possible and can be carried forward in game. Then they had their ideation phase, which was concept work and research on base bodies, concept work and research on hairs, and then concept work and research on costumes, which of course is, I think, where everybody's eyes are going to light up in the future. At least ours here, I think. I don't know about, the rank and file RuneScape.
Doesn't love a bit of fashionscape. Who doesn't love it?
Yeah, I mean, take it to the next level with that. And what they're doing right now in terms of the proof of concept is they're talking about the delivery of initial character model meshes, proving that the new and old meshes can work together. Of course, that means that when you have a new player model and then you put an old piece of armor on it, you need to make sure that everything, of course, will still animate properly in the like with that. And then on to production. They're going to build all the meshes, kits, and hairstyles, integrate external partners into this process. So that, of course, means outsourcing for the cosmetic side of things, and improve internal tooling to speed up delivery, which I'm guessing means to improve their processes to ensure that whatever is brought forward and decided to go into game can be put in with minimal friction into the existing game as it is. And this is the next stage of where we're at right now, the production phase on that. Then, of course, after that, you have delivery, which they say is a full refresh of every element that a player sees in the character creator, refreshed avatars, the 16 male and female outfits, 62 hairstyles, and 18 facial hairs with that. So We're not even halfway through this process, but huge project. And from that point, they went into what the start of this whole thing looked like with some base models, and then they added what they said was shading with vertex colors on there, and then you have the basic male and female model to this, which, I mean, on their own, this kind of looks relatively flat, but when you look at this in the 3D applications that they were using, I think it turned out fairly well on this here.
Yeah.
Then they have. Did you enjoy, or were you surprised by all of the little labels that they said about how that, every section of the torso, for example, has a label on it? Then you can animate that label, and then that carries it through and reiterates down forward and animates the bone. Whereas in other games, it's actually reversed. You animate the bone, then everything else on top gets animated. Just once again, something that is completely different
Legacy
from the way RuneScape does it. Exactly.
Yeah, like, huh?
And that's something that you can't change.
Created by someone who probably left 10 years ago, and you don't know how it works now.
Yep. Probably.
That's the way.
And, you couldn't wipe all that away, because if you did, you'd, of course, probably be looking at a bigger project, and the plane would crash. Now,
Live code bases, you gotta love them.
Yeah. They also said that the Chad head is another model from the actual player character model, which we know, of course, from, having higher resolution Chad heads than the actual player model. And the NPC system itself is another different system on top of that they say is more standard as terms of what's done in the games industry. It has more flexibility and control than the player character model, and the model system itself can't just be changed to that, because this, once again, would be that metaphor of changing the wings while the plane is flying. So we learned a lot about the legacy tech that, here, even with RuneScape 3, has implications going back to RuneScape 2 on that. So we had a bit of the clay sculpts looking at, how they took actual inspiration from what people's bodies actually look like in terms of, I guess, what would you say that? The skin structure, I guess?
You mean we're not going to have claymation models, Shane?
Nope. And now this is one point you said about the character models themselves. They said the critical thing is that the team is looking to refresh both the male and female characters so that they become more balanced and sympathetic to their overall forms and display at a higher fidelity. And what they mean by this is that your character should be someone who is seen as a little bit athletic and, not overly so, but, it should be an athletic character, and you should be able to see that if you want to, I think. What do you guys think about how they did the balance between the male and the female on this?
I think it falls in the trap of kind of the male actually looks like an athlete, and then the female looks like a skinny female rather than an athlete. But that's typical of fantasy games. It's not something unique to RuneScape.
Right.
And of course, the male model's also equally unachievable and perfect. So there is that.
Yeah.
This is what I was saying earlier, but it'd be nice to see the different body types.
Right.
But I understand if that's beyond the scope at the moment.
Yeah, beyond the scope of the project and whatnot.
It would maybe be nicer, like, does the female look like an athlete? Is she actually going to have some muscle, or is she just going to look thin?
Yeah. Or maybe you want the male to look in that way as well, right?
Maybe he can have forms that aren't jacked up bodybuilder, 0% muscle fat. 0% fat, body fat,
Yeah.
Endomorphic and exomorphic body forms, like that would be quite nice to see.
Yeah, and one thing I've seen mentioned, and we've actually talked about in our producers chat that I don't think has been mentioned in this project, is that RuneScape is a game that is very accessible and very diverse. And one thing that hasn't been mentioned in this is there going to be a non-binary body type?
I don't know. Be interesting if there was.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that's something that's come up with people on the internet. It would be interesting to see what the art team had to say about that. We'll have to see if there's ever an art Q&A and somebody can ask that question, because I think that's an important thing to ask, and I know that's been kicked around in our producers chat a bit too on that.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I think for now they're just focusing on kind of the minimum,
the proof of concept.
The proof of concept, which involves the absolute minimum. Yeah. So it would be replacing what they already have rather than adding in new stuff. So you can understand why they're focusing on the male form and the female form. Yeah,
I mean, if you can get it working with one, then you expand out from there going forward. But
you have to get it working with the bare minimum first before you start iterating, before you start expanding. It has to work on the minimum. So start small and work outwards.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to hair, they actually did a whole lot of research on hair in terms of actually looking at, you know, the way different hairstyles look in the natural world and seeing if they could illuminate that kind of thing in game as well. And the goal with this whole thing is to be refreshing, up-resing the existing hairstyles, and a bit of reimagining, but they're not really focusing on a whole redesign of the hair kits that are available. So just keep that in mind as we move forward on this. And this is the big thing that was, I think, the central theme of this live stream. If people want something to take away from this, is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And then as this wedge is driven in further, more things will become possible with this in terms of the character model, which I liked hearing. And I think that needed to be walked home as well on that. And Mod Iroh reiterated that this precise reason, this wedge, is one of the reasons that he was desperately keen to work on the RuneScape project, is actually the costume design. And he says that there's going to be an absolute world of possibility, and we're only just scratching the surface with this.
He doesn't love Fashionscape. Everyone loves a bit of Fashionscape.
Yeah, exactly. And
if a game offers dress up, you got to play at least half an hour of dress up, just getting your stuff sorted out. Very important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already thinking of what the outfit's going to be when I get 120 archaeology. And I got
That's
some
what it's
ideas.
all about.
Yeah, I got some ideas, and I was thinking of how is this going to look after the character model comes in. Ooh, I want to see that. What my outfits are going to look like with this. So, pretty neat.
Your one outfit, Shane?
Yes, my one outfit. Now. They also had a bit of a discussion about the costume creation process and what they were talking about, how they were effectively taking the existing costumes that were in game and, you know, just effectively bringing up the fidelity on them and trying to, you know, keep them true to what they were. And this is where the comment you made, Diana, about are your pants just being held up by magic, or should they actually be held up by a belt? So
costume makes sense physically.
Yeah, does it make sense physically?
It's a basic question, but from some of the, you know, costumes you can see in some fantasy games, it's not one that's often asked.
Right. And with that, you know, the question is, what happens when you put this costume on the player? Does the fabric ebb and flow? And you can actually see that in the new character models, that it does. You can actually, you know, see the different leg aspects of the costumes that were shown off, and it's just got so much more detail than what they have currently in game as well. So overall, I think that this is something that we underappreciate currently because we just accept it being the way it is, right? But when the fact is that you can zoom in on these characters, or you will be able to zoom in and look at the individual buckles on a belt or a boot or something to that effect, and know that there's fabric that's moving with your character underneath that, I think that is what this is going to accomplish. And, it's just like the move from Java to NXT. We didn't think we needed that, but, we couldn't imagine going back at this point.
Yeah.
So.
True that.
And the whole idea behind this is to bring detail, form, elegance, and a strong sense of construction to the costumes. And what he means by construction is just that you can actually feel as though that this would be an actual costume that if you wanted to, you could go out there and duplicate it. Like you can see some of the cross-hatching on this. I think it's either a smith's costume or a crafting costume that was being shown off here with this. So
blacksmith, a blacksmith,
right? The blacksmith costume. Right. Yeah. And a lot of the direction on this project has actually already been taken from player research. People want to have their time be respected for being in a world, and although there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of seriousness. RuneScape is not a joke. There should be no cartoony nonsense or nothing childish. I was very pleased to hear that. Because, Tanis, you remember back in, I think it was November or October, when the Traveling Artisan event happened, and we started talking a bit about the art direction. We were saying, if you took this, one step further, you'd be kind of going into that cartoony zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, and that's... But then again, I mean, I was hoping that, like, maybe the Anachronius style would be about as far as we were going to go that way.
I think it is.
Yeah, and it appears that that's going to be the case. So that's good. And I mean, I didn't mind it to that point. I don't think I would have wanted much more than that.
Yeah. And, with this, it was time to have a look at what this actually looked like in the game engine to see what these character models would look like, keeping that core idea in mind. And this was perhaps the most amusing part of this live stream, I think, when they were demonstrating the range of motions in game. They spawned 3 characters that were just doing these stretches, and two of them didn't have heads, and they were just completely stretching out on the entire range of motions that were possible with this. And I mean, I don't know how to describe that. Range of motions.
You like that, Shane?
Yeah, I did.
Almost as good as the opening screenshot they had, which was both characters kind of almostly T-posing in a dramatic black and white background.
RuneScape Noir, I believe you said.
T-pose noir.
Oh God, that was absolutely amusing. But we also did get a preview of what the full character model looked like, and this is the moment in which I was sold. The new next to the old. You can actually see the differences in game. It's actually being rendered in engine as it is. You can see it move around. You can see the character do emotes. You can see it equip different items. There's still some little rough edges here and there, but I was sold at this point, and I hope other people are too. Maybe we need a little bit more Fashionscape to make the sale, but when you put the old and the new side by side, it is absolutely astounding what was here, I think.
I want to know why they made him wear a helmet all the time.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see the facial structure, right?
It's not finished about the face.
Or maybe he didn't have a head.
Maybe he doesn't have a head yet. Or it's one of those creepy things where it's just like a pair of eyes. And that's it.
Modstead loved doing the jig animation, it seemed.
They look good, though. They do look very good.
Yeah. I want this. And, I think that's a good sign. They also took the character model to Everlight. as an example to show what it looked like in different environments. And this new character model, as we saw in the previous sections, is actually able to better reflect the light of the environment, like the fire or the moon in the background, compared to what our current character model has. So, once again, another great showcase of the Everlight environment combined with this new character model. I don't know what to say at this point, except that, you kind of got to see it to believe it. And now we're getting, we were going to have a McDonald's ad on the live stream, but we'll move on from that. You guys have any final thoughts before we pass on here?
I think it's going to be a very interesting update, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on it for sure.
Yeah. All right. Tannis?
No, I mean, yeah, like Diana said, keep our eye on it.
Yeah. Would you say that you were under-surprised, over-surprised, or was this what you were expecting?
I mean, this is kind of what I was expecting from the little peek that we got at the kind of like the clay figures they were looking at. I kind of expected something along these lines. I knew that they wouldn't go super, all in, because it would probably look funny compared to everything else.
With RS.
And if you're not going to do at least what they're doing now, then why bother? So this was kind of right where I expected them to go.
All right. Sounds good. We're going to move on now. Next up, of course, we got some news this week that Jagex was actually for sale yet again. And, this surprised me because I had no idea that this was actually going to happen with this here.
Hot potato.
Yeah, and that's kind of...
It must be tax time somewhere. The tax time?
Soon.
Okay.
Soon.
It's tax time.
But RuneScape has been sold to the Carlyle Group, which is a U.S.-based investment firm. And what they're actually very proud of saying with this is that, the Carlyle Group actually wants to invest in what's happening with RuneScape going forward in terms of its growth. And they see RuneScape as one of the key MMOs out there, and that's why they had their interest in it. And as for the company itself, $230 billion worth of assets under its management. It's got offices on every continent, and it's not the first company you would think of for RuneScape, but I think it's a better fit than what we had in the past. The CEO, Phil Mansell, or Mod Pips, said that I'm so proud that Jagex is teaming up with the Carlyle Group, a prestigious investment group that believes in the potential of Jagex, our vision of growth, and will support us in accelerating our multi-year growth strategy. Now, one of the managing directors...
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, corporate speak, so on and so forth. And now where the story gets really interesting, you'll recall that last May we talked a little bit about the sale and how it seemed kind of shady in terms of how there was another investment group involved called Pluto Sama. And what looks like happened here, there's another complaint that you can see documented in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com, is that Pluto Sama was trying to acquire Jagex with the Shanghai Hongtao network in 2018, and later in 2020 participated in an auction that they claim they won, acquiring Jagex for $530 million through a partnership with Platinum Fortune. Now, we, of course, talked about Platinum Fortune last year in the May sale, but Pluto Sama says they found out after the fact, which if you did any research, you would have seen that this was always on the books, that Shanghai Hongtao Network was actually involved in a Chinese lending scheme involving billions of dollars of corporate funds. And Pluto says that this is the main reason for breaking the partnership, selling its general partner interest in Platinum to MacArthur Fortune Holdings, which caused Jagex to become owned by MacArthur Fortune at the end of 2020. Now, with this, there were also multiple attempts by Plutos to forcefully acquire Jagex through this, but what was done is that a partnership with Shanghai Hongtao Network majority shareholder Yan Jingang prevented that sale from going forward, and it was only through a partnership with Yan that the Carlyle Group was actually able to acquire Jagex going forward. And, for anybody who is vaguely paying attention of what this means that Jagex was being used by the Shanghai Hongtao Network and Platinum to ultimately launder bad debt. And that's never a good thing for a company. So looking forward with this, it seems as though the Jagex is in better hands with the Carlyle Group. I think we just need to take a step back here because what I have just detailed with probably makes no sense whatsoever, because we're dealing with, at this point, 3 or 4 different levels of corporations with sales going on back and forth over the last year and a half or so. And for anybody's business at the end of the day, if you are a player of RuneScape or if you are an employee of Jagex listening to this, it means no difference to you at the end of the day. As long as the bills are being paid, the revenue is coming in, and the players are enjoying the game, and, the profits keep growing year over year, you're probably going to be fine. It's just a question of whether or not Jagex was going to be used by Pluto Sama and Shanghai Hongtao to restructure bad debt, which seemed as though what they were going to do. And this sale, this move over to Carlyle, is going to prevent that going forward. And this was, of course, the main point we brought up last May. And what I want to address today is that by moving the sale through to Carlyle, the future of Jagex is a lot more secure than it was under the former owners, because it's not going to be an entity used to write off bad debt, which you totally can do legally in the corporate sense. But it's not necessarily a good sign when your company is being used for that, and it makes me feel a lot better knowing that that's not happening going forward.
Well, yeah. You ever heard of Toys R Us, anybody?
No, what happened to them?
That's how they went under. Toys R Us made money. They made a profit, but they could never service the debt that they got cleaned out. Every time someone would come in, they would load it up with debt, run out the back door with the money, sell the company.
Right.
On and on it went.
Right. And that's exactly what it seems like Hongtao and the various shell companies formed underneath Platinum and MacArthur were aimed to do. So, and, I like Carlyle. I think that it's a good fit for them currently. And, there's also some interesting history and some trivia that I'll leave as an exercise for the listeners to look up. Let's move on to our Patreon spot and thank our wonderful Patreon supporters this week. This week, I'd like to thank Andrew C., Brock H., Cameron, Christian S., Cook Me Plocks, Diana, Duramax, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Joe M., John P., Kesky, Kyle, Lucky Ducky, Nora, Pernasius, Rastafa, Ricky A., Samantha R., Soupfinder, Stubby Eve, The Naked Captain, The Lion, Tom V., and Zant. Thank you, all of you, for your support. It truly means the world to us, and it allows us to do what we do here at RSBANDB Update. Next week, we'll be putting out our second part of the monthly bit where we talk about 10 years of RuneScape, the second half. 20 years of RuneScape, the second half. Also this weekend, we'll be hosting our monthly round table on Saturday, if you're listening to this before Saturday. If not, if you're listening after the fact, you can find that on the feed at patreon.com/RSBNB. And if you're wondering what all this is about, you can check us out at patreon.com/RSBNB. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. And in doing so, you'll get a special shout-out in our show notes and early access to the show notes and access to the entire back catalog of our monthly bits, For $3 a month, you'll receive a special VIP rank on Discord, a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and high-quality stereo AAC versions of the show, in addition to everything else. And for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use for the clip show at the end of the year. And, that makes sense because, we're only in January and 12 months left to go. Makes sense for that part. But, of course, we also do have the monthly bits, the round table, and we will, of course, also, should we ever reach the $500 a month tier, if somebody wants to make Tannis and myself suffer, we'll subject our taste buds to a range of spicy wings for your enjoyment if you want to see us hosts experience pain.
So if it ever happens.
Yeah. Do you want to come along for that?
Absolutely not.
Oh, dude, it's so funny.
I'm sorry, I'm far too white. I can't deal with it.
I don't know. I'm pretty bland. I don't even put pepper on stuff a lot of times.
Oh no, really?
Oh, this is gonna be fun for you.
So. Oh no, it's gonna be horrible. I just saw, and it's funny, because one of my coworkers just posted today that they had ordered the sauce set from Hot Ones. They're like, has anyone ever seen this? I just ordered. I'm like, yeah, I've seen it, and I'm gonna do it. But we're doing it for a good cause.
That's right.
I do not do it for fun.
All right. Well, once again, patreon.com/RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everybody. And that concludes this edition of RSBANDB Update. We have some picks of the week to talk about in terms of fun little things here and there that we want to surface. They can be, articles, games, apps, websites, music, and so on and so forth. I have one this week, and you might have heard about this. Apparently there's a company out there called GameStop that people are freaking out about on the stock market, and you're wondering what exactly is going on with GameStop. Why did they go from the price of $4 a share up to, I think, $175 or so per share? And you're wondering what exactly is going on with this. Well, there's a subreddit called Wall Street Bets that's taking credit for driving up the price of the GameSpot share. GameStop? I always confuse that. But
GameStop, it's a shitty.
It's a question of whether you swap those last few letters. But what's been happening is that the stock has been being shorted by Wall Street traders. And what that means in simple speak is that when you short a stock and you have the stock go down in value, you make money, which seems counterintuitive because most times when your stock goes down, you lose money. So through this process known as shorting, you can, if you are an investor with connections, you can actually make profit on this. And the simple example is that, and this is given in a tweet thread, which is the actual pick of the week. So if Tim borrows Bob's shares in GameStop and sells them for $10, but he pays Bob $1 to do this and promises to give back all of Bob's shares, that is known as borrowing a share and selling them for a profit. Then, if that stock goes down to $5, Tim will buy those shares back from the market at a cheaper price. So the result of this is that Tim's profit is $4. $10 minus 5 minus 1. And this, in a very concise example, is what stock shorting is, and that's how a lot of people make money. It's what partially caused the 2008 financial collapse in the U.S. that spurred on the global financial crisis. And, there's apparently out there a whole subreddit of people that have been buying this stock and making money off it, causing prices to go up. One hedge fund has already gone bankrupt with this, and there's a myriad of different ways of looking at this, who wins and who loses at the end of the day. But what is very certain is that one hedge fund has gone bankrupt and a bunch of people on the internet have made money. And if you're interested in, knowing exactly what the hell is going on with all of this, there's a very good tweet thread that I'll link in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com that runs through the entirety of what's happening here. And it's explained mostly in simple language. So you don't need to be a trader, or you don't need a degree in economics to understand it, and it works quite well. So that's the pick of the week, because I think everybody's talking about it and everybody deserves a good explanation of what's happening.
Sounds a lot like Skilling Supply a Merchant, but
Yeah, currently the share price is at
all these Redditors who cut their teeth on RuneScape trading.
That was my exact thought with this too.
Harshest market out there, the Global Exchange.
The share is currently trading at $193. Its peak on over the last day today was $469.
But doesn't that show you how messed up stuff is? Because GameStop is the crappiest store today as it was a week ago, as it was a year ago.
Right, and you go back, it was averaging $16 to $19 going up to January 12th, and then that's when it started increasing in price, and it really only spiked in the last day or so.
And if I'm not sure who does this. Is it the publishers? I don't know, but someone is keeping it artificially high for the brick and mortar stores, right? So,
oh no, $19 is low, and that was the whole reason the investors were shorting it, is because they expected at some point the company would ultimately fold up and go bankrupt.
See, that was the thing I saw about it. I'll admit off the bat that I'm not well versed in this sort of capitalism, but from the summaries I've seen, Wall Street investors were betting on
they were betting on its failure.
So they were borrowing more money or more shares than actually existed to make a profit.
And that's
Wall
where
Street bets notice started to drive up the prices so that the investors will have to buy them back at hugely inflated prices and force these things to go bankrupt.
And that's where the problem is going to come in for this. Because I don't need to remind everybody what happened last time a bunch of hedge funds went bankrupt.
But it's a kind of a big fuck you to the hedge fund managers who are doing risky trading, and it's actually a really nice bit of collective action. Just a bunch of people on Reddit going absolutely crazy and driving Wall Street into the ground. That's pretty cool, actually.
Kind of beautiful in that sense.
Yeah. It's a kind of that's nice. I can watch that happen a few times over.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just say before we move on with this is that read the explanation thread, but I'll just say that it's not a good idea to get investment advice from RuneScape podcast. So in no way or form are we offering investment advice on this.
So buy, sell.
Invest in shards. That's my best advice.
Buying 1,000 rocktails.
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that.
Yeah. All right. Pick of the week. Diana, I believe you have one.
My pick of the week is a complete change of pace from what the ones you were just talking about. A couple of weeks ago, a sea shanty called Wellerman went viral on TikTok. It's been blowing up all over the place. So I'm going to plug the original band who did the original cover of it. Wellerman's a folk song and a sea shanty that's been around for a couple of 100 years, but they're called the Longest Johns. They are a 4-man a cappella folk band, shanty band from Bristol. They've been active for about 9 years in the English folk song scene, kind of quietly touring and putting out a couple of albums and doing very well for what they do. Over the last couple of weeks, they have gone viral, completely viral. It's been nuts as a long-standing member of their community to watch it. They've got international record deals and they're going to start gigging again. And yeah, it's bananas. It's absolutely bananas. So what I've included in the show notes is a link to their website where you can get a bunch of really cool merch and stuff, and a link to a Twitter thread that I did of some of my favorites of their songs, some originals and some kind of covers of traditional songs.
Nice.
please have a look. If you've enjoyed Wellerman, if you've enjoyed the resurgence of sea shanties at all, please do check them out. They are a really great gang of singers. They also do a lot of gaming and a lot of streams on Twitch. They'll do singing streams, and you can just drop in and listen to them work. And yeah, really nice guys, and very, very talented. So that's my pick of the week.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I saw them. I saw the whole sea shanty trend starting off again a while back, and I wasn't exactly sure where it started. And it's actually neat to see that. Oh, they have dice. That's interesting. I'm not a dice collector.
They're complete D&D nerds. They are such nerds. They're. I think I will do full disclosure here. I'm one of their community moderators on the Discord, so I do have a bit of an invested interest in this, but I do genuinely think they're a great gang. And yeah, go check them out, definitely.
But you were OG. You were there from day one.
I liked them before they were cool.
Yeah, before they were cool.
It's the only time in my life I get to say this. It's great. But they managed to get a sea shanty into the UK top 40.
Nice.
No, it's amazing. I didn't
went in at number 37, but they managed to get this 200-year-old sea shanty into the top 40, which is bananas.
Maybe we need an RSBANDB update sea shanty.
Oh, blimey, that'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
See, I didn't even know these were. Like, I'm like, what's this? What's a sea shanty? What? And then I heard it. I'm like, oh, like a whaling song kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like a work song. Basically,
yeah,
and that can take many forms. And then if you go from in America, they're often kind of Alapashan, kind of almost cowboyish songs. It's between cowboy and country almost, but work songs that you do. They're rhythmic and they're almost like railroad songs. In the UK, the equivalent is nautical ones, because obviously that was sailing out from Bristol and Liverpool. We have the more nautical tradition rather than the railroad tradition, but similar kind of style. And they just slap. They're just really good songs. And the really fun thing about them is that anyone can join in. You don't have to be musical at all. You can just scream the lyrics out with no musicality whatsoever, and you still contribute.
Well, I don't know about working. I think it would be fun to do drinking. I mean,
there's a lot of drinking songs as well. So.
I think I know what we're doing one day. I'll probably save that best for real life at somewhere, but
next RuneFest maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Proper sing along in a pub. That's how you should do it.
Hey, does that mean the one that they did for the ports, is that a sea shanty now?
They did one for the
was it ports or
Pirates Quest? The final Pirates Quest. The last song was a shanty.
Okay.
And it was quite funny. They got everyone and they got a bunch of people on the dev team singing along for it. That was quite funny.
Nice.
Wonderful. All right, let's do some achievements.
Right. Well, to start this week off, Doggy says FTW got 99 farming on January 26th, and then Derpa got 120 fire making on January 26th. Up the Iron 505 got 99 magic with on January 26th. Almost Evil 2 got 99 woodcutting on the 25th. Boro Soro got 120 herb lore on January 25th. And Max Quest PTS got max quest points, got 99 attack on January 25th. And Miss Alaska with 99 archaeology on January 25th. Right, nice job.
25th was busy. Wow.
Yeah, it really was. And it continues on. We have Rastafa with 120 agility on the 25th. Sillycat 98 with 99 mining on the 25th. Ultradog 177 rounding out the 25th with 99 agility. Then max quest points again with 99 constitution on the 24th. Shamrock Sage with 99 agility. Snower Jet with 99 fishing on the 24th. And then Chaz 5100 with 99 dungeoneering on January 23rd.
And then continuing on the 23rd, we have Dog Says FTW, our 99 Invention, Ubi Danubi, which is an excellent name, by the way, with 99 Defense, also on the 23rd, Vivian with 99 Defense on the 23rd, Brappa with 120 Archaeology on the 22nd, Knifen with 99 Hunter on January 22nd, and Snow Trader with 99 Archaeology, also on January 22nd.
Nicely done, everyone. And as I mentioned, that pretty much concludes this edition of RSBANDB Update. Let's talk a bit about what we've been up to. Tanis, you want to go first?
Sure. So this is like the second week in a row that I'm basically gathering energy and doing archaeology, and about an hour before bed. Like, this is kind of becoming bedtime ritual stuff, just because I've been been really busy with daytime stuff. So, but that's the great thing about like popping bubbles or air fishing, whatever you want to call it, in archaeology. It's always there for you. Like when you just want to chill, there it is.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense.
Never heard it called air fishing before, though, but I love it.
Yeah, that was a method I coined back when it was released, because a lot of people were criticizing the skill as just, being too boring. I said no, you can do fishing, you can do divination. All you got to do is treat it as air fishing, with the bank being only a few steps away.
Oh, nice.
That's the way I treated it. But as for me, I am less than 4 million XP away from 120 archaeology now.
Nice.
This thing just so fast at 119. It was, there was 9 million XP put in something like 2,500 batteries down to 8 million, and then this last 4 million has just disappeared. I don't know where it's gone. It's just completely disappeared. I also have a huge, nice stack of chronotes that I might end up selling after the fact, which has a nice value to it. There's also going to be lots of tetra compasses to complete. So I don't think I'll be done with archaeology after getting 120, honestly. It's going to be one of those ones that I continue on with. So,
do you have the pet?
Yes, I do have the pet. I got the pet at like level 80.
Nice.
Yeah. But, I finished Yak Track and then went back to archaeology. And it's just that the way I can describe this skill is it's just like farming. It's like that boot that just fits and is so comfortable.
It's a boot.
If that makes sense. So, I'm enjoying myself. How about you, Diana?
I had a bit of a break from RuneScape for a couple of weeks, and I've come back recently to play the mini quest, and I've just been doing archaeology. Outside of RuneScape, I've finally started playing Control, which is a brilliant game. I am loving it. And that's about it, really.
What's
just
that one about?
Archaeology. Control is a Finnish game by Remedy Studios, and it's very much reminiscent of SCP type, kind of superliminal, surreal, supernatural things going on, powers.
Okay.
I'm trying to explain the main plot. You basically have to go, you're looking for your brother in this weird building that's the Federal Bureau for Control.
Fascinating.
And weird things keep happening, and, rifts to the astral plane keep opening, and you kind of gain powers as you go through the building looking for your brother. It's got a gorgeous surreal art style. It's black and white and red, really distinctive, geometric, brutalist style that I love looking at. And
nice.
It's quite well written as well. It does a very clever thing with where the protagonist stands relative to the player, which is quite nice. Really fun game so far.
That's
quite creepy as well.
Almost a secondary pick of the week. We'll allow that. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. Tanis didn't do one, so
it's
go
like
for it.
Suspense. It's not strictly a horror game, but it is very much a suspense game. It's very fun.
Okay,
very
so
fun.
kind of like a jump scare kind of thing.
No jump scares.
Okay.
And better for it, because I hate jump scares. It's kind of like you don't know what's around the corner.
Right,
This massive
okay.
empty office building, like you don't know what's going to be there. It could be anything. And yeah, very good.
Sounds
Really enjoying
spooky.
it. Spooky, very spooky.
Well, that wraps this edition of RSBANDB Update. If you guys want full show notes, you can find that at update.rsbnb.com. You can also subscribe to the podcast, any podcast listener out there, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, YouTube, anything, really. Just visit update.rsbnb.com/subscribe, and we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Take care, everyone.
See
Bye-bye.
ya.